Greetings YouTube, welcome back to the Maternity channel. I am Marcus, bringing you another video for Cardfight Vanguard Overdress. Of course, in this video, we will be going through the Hexaorb support for DBT03. And she has the most supported cards in this set other than, well, Eugene that is. And she looks to be quite powerful in terms of her power level increase from DBT01 and 2. Let's take a look. First off, we have Starry Sky Magic Maluluna. Auto, when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, discard a Hexaorb Sorceress from your hand. Choose a Hexaorb on your Vanguard or rearguard and it gets 10k power until the end of turn. This card is a little bit weird because of course we all know how devastating Personal Ride could be. They basically just discard a Personal Ride target just to give a unit 10k power as opposed to draw one as well as 10k to your front row. But there are cases where you would have to, but there are of course cases where you would not be able to survive until the next turn. The extra 10k power is actually not too bad, because most likely your Hexaorb is going to be your lowest power attack because your rearguards are definitely going to be hit big because of the trigger check as well as Hexaorb own skill to give them 10k power. This card is more like a final turn usage card instead of first turn grade 3 usage card, because you do need the Personal Ride in order to get triple drive as well as putting either a front or a critical on top of your deck. Not too bad, and if she's only a common. Next up we have Realization Magic Kikitchu. Kikitchu. Auto rearguard circle. When this unit is placed on rearguard circle, choose up to one critical trigger or front trigger from your hand, reveal it, and put it into the bottom of your deck. If you put it, Soul Blast one and draw a card. This card is actually not too bad. You could basically like recycle some of your triggers from your hand back to bottom deck. Of course, you would be sacrificing a little bit of defense, but then you are able to put them back. And of course, if you do manage to shuffle your deck, hey, it's one trigger into the deck. And of course, technically, you don't really lose as much because you still draw one at the cost of a Soul Blast. If for example, if your drawing hand after your mulligan is still not too great, you could use this card to potentially fetch out some pieces instead of being stuck to your current bad or brick hand, and also recycling triggers for later game. Next up we have Comprising Heavenly Shield Felicida. Active rearguard circle. If you Personal Ride this turn, counterblast 2 and retire this unit. Choose one of your grade 3 units and it gets drive +1 until the end of turn. So this is basically a heavy cost for a quadruple drive Hexaorb. Means is that you are going to pay 3 counterblast, 1 Soul Blast, as well as retire one unit just to give a quadruple drive. Not bad, but not great at the same time because it's heavy cost. This card is very late in activation because she does requires you to Personal Ride, so you could potentially not see her, you could potentially not use her skill at all if you do not get your Personal Ride target. So it's gonna be really not great. It's not great. However, the drive does not really need to be put on the Vanguard. You could give a grade 3 on the rearguard that +1 drive. Of course, this is taking into the fact that you already know that the top 3 cards or top 2 or your drive check is gonna reveal a over trigger. Next up, Divine Great Magic Milmomo. Auto rearguard circle. When your drive check reveals a trigger unit, if your Vanguard is Hexaorb Sorceress, Soul Blast 1 and this unit plus 5k power. This skill is not once per turn, surprisingly. If you drive check like 3 triggers in a row, you're able to Soul Blast 3 and give this unit 15k power. Although I don't really think you need to pay for the Soul Blast because she's going to be big as hell already. She will be at 38k if all drives are triggered. This is of course you're giving the power to the other side, of course, and of course Personal Riding. It's a little bit RNG and of course resource hungry because of Soul Blast 1. So every time you drive check a trigger, you need to Soul Blast 1 to get that 5k, which I don't think it's the best out of all the support, but she is still a viable option. Next up is Light Illuminating the Truth. Choose a Hexaorb Sorceress on your Vanguard or rearguard circle and it gets 10k power until the end of that battle. Counterblast 2 and it gets plus 40k power instead of 10k power. This Blitz order is really good and bad at the same time. This is one of the beefiest Blitz order to date, with the 40k shield being comparable to the over trigger. Over trigger is 50k shield. This is basically a 40k shield with a heavier cost. It is gonna cripple you a little bit in terms of resources, but then you do have stuff that basically countercharges. For example, Fossado, that's the best countercharger in the deck at the moment. It is still a 10k shield in a sense because you could just throw this out and not pay Counterblast 2 and it's still a 10k, which is still good. Overall, this card could see play in Hexaorb deck and could potentially see 1 or 2. I don't think you will want to run more of this card. Moving on. Next we have Drilling Angel. Auto, when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, put a unit card from your drop into your soul. Look at the 3 cards from the top of your deck and choose up to 1 card from among them with the same card name as the card put into your soul for this cost. Call it to rearguard circle and shuffle your deck. Now this card is plenty good in a Hexaorb deck because not only does it help with your soul resources, your top deck manipulation does kind of guarantee you to call the same unit that you put into the soul. So of course, based on your top, you don't really need to like put 1 card at the bottom. You just have to refer to your drop zone, see whether or not you have that same card in your drop zone. And then if you do have that, you just call Drilling Angel out and then put that specific card into the soul and basically call it from the top 3 cards of your top deck, which basically guarantees this skill. Super nice, but it's still going to be RNG reliant because you're relying a little too much on your top deck manipulation skills. But overall, this card is insane in Hexaorb. Next up, we have Please Magic Nanaful. Auto rearguard circle. When your drive check reveals a trigger unit, put a card from your hand into your soul and draw a card. She does helps you exchange some of your useless cards. For example, like a draw trigger if you do run them in Hexaorb, or some useless grade 3s that you have in your hand to potentially get more shield into your hand, as well as some key pieces that you might need for the next turn. And also she does help with soul resources because as you have already known by now, there's a lot of soul blast costs coming up for Hexaorb. And the good thing is that you don't like randomly soul charge from the top deck. You are kind of specifically soul charging for the drop zone or your hand, which in terms is way better than what Dark States has at this moment. And of course, do keep in mind is that this card is not once per turn. It's really a good card and you don't really need to wait until your grade 3 turn. You could just call this out on a grade 2 turn and basically start filtering your hand. It's really good. Next up, we have Wish to Tomorrow. Play this card with Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. Reveal a critical trigger or front trigger from your hand. If your opponent Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you draw a card and put the card reveal for this cost on the top of your deck. So this card is basically the second skill of Hexaorb, where you need to personal right in order to pay Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1 and put either a critical or front to the top deck. However, this card does not really like increase your drive check because of course this card is not reliant on personal writing. With this order, you're basically guaranteed to have at least 2 trigger drive, either a critical or front. Of course, this is provided that you already use Hexaorb personal right second skill. This card does helps with your first grade 3 turn where you could not personal right, and this basically lets you like guarantee that drive check into critical or front, and also the activation of Hexaorb first skill to give another unit 10k, which will make your grade 3 first skill much more consistent on your first ride on to Hexaorb. This card does increase the consistency of Hexaorb as a whole. Next, we have the double R, Relevation Magic Totoris. Auto, when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard, Counterblast 1, search your deck for up to 1 Hexaorb, reveal it and put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. So this card is of course your personal right guarantee card, which this is the first time we actually see for Hexaorb. This card is so good that it basically searches out directly before you go to your 4th turns. You could use this card on the 3rd turn where you first write into Hexaorb, which will basically guarantees you the personal right. And of course, on the next turn, once you personal right again, you can basically call this card out to Counterblast 1 and take out another Hexaorb to personal right the next turn. Oh, also what she does is basically filters out the deck so that it increases your chance of getting any triggers. Need I say more? Next up, auto, when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, Soul Blast 1, look at the top card of your deck. If it is a unit card, you may call it to a rearguard circle in the same column as this unit. If you did not call, return it. So this is basically an easy plus with Pentagleam Sorceress skill. For example, when you first ride into Hexaorb, you're able to look at the top 3 of your deck with Pentagleam on Ridden skill. So you could basically just see and basically rearrange to whatever cards that you may want to call if you have this card in your hand. So this card's cost, the Soul Blast 1, does not go to waste no matter what. So if, for example, you do not have any other skills that basically help you check what your top deck is, you could basically just call this card and basically look at the top deck and decide whether or not you want to call it out or basically put to the top deck. Of course, if it's the over trigger, for sure you will want to put it in the top deck. And this basically will tell your opponent 2 things. One is that your top deck is going to be a trigger unit or it's going to be an order card. Either one. This is a very, very, very good unit to be run with Hexaorb. It's really good. Lastly, we have the triple R for Hexaorb, Aspiring Magic Cacarone. Auto when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, if your Vanguard is Hexaorb Sorceress or Pentagleam Sorceress, Soul Blast 1. Look at 2 cards from the top of your deck and put them on the top of your deck in any order. Cost, rearguard circle, and guardian circle. If your Vanguard is Hexaorb Sorceress, this unit gets 2k power and 5k shield, active on your opponent's turn 2. So this is some more stacking card skills that Hexaorb gets for DBT02. More top deck manipulation skill, the better for Hexaorb to function as a deck. Oh, and of course this card, it's also really good. She is a 12k base after your grade 3 turn, so once you go into Hexaorb, she's basically going to be a 12k rearguard no matter what, even on your opponent's turn, which is it's still quite good, but I highly doubt your opponent will want to basically attack this unit other than Leonard being Leonard, as well as Eugene being Eugene. The extra defense is always really nice for Hexaorb, and since she's on place, you could potentially sacrifice her to basically call another Cacarone out. So it's still good. It's still really good. And that is all for this video. Overall, the Hexaorb looks to be a really solid deck with more top deck manipulation skills as well as personal right guaranteed card skill. Hexaorb looks to be the most improved deck out of all of the decks for DBT03. Do like and subscribe if you like this video, and also do remember to ring the bell notification icon so that you don't miss a video I upload. With that being said, I'll see you all on the field.